This podcast contains explicit content and is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Hi, my name is Madison.
And I'm Hannah.
And you are listening to a Lil Knocker.
A true crime podcast. Is that still what it is? Technically, yes.
Yeah, so it's the month of October, which is the month of Halloween. So we decided to do a couple little episodes, which we're aptly naming Lil Knockers.
Yep.
So this is our first Lil Knocker.
Yeah, welcome.
Here we are. And we're going to be doing, and these are just going to be little, conversational, not as in-depth as our regular episodes, but we're going to be discussing the infamous Greyhound murderer beheading situation.
Yeah. Literally nightmare fuel.
Yeah, that occurred in Canada. And we've had a couple people, shout out, who have been asking for this, but we didn't feel that it warranted like a long enough or like a regular length episode.
It's a pretty cut and dry situation.
Yeah. It sounds horrific, but it is like...
in the sense that there's not a lot of questions, really, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to start us off?
Talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't know, the Greyhound bus murder took place July 30th, 2008, and it was on a Greyhound bus in Alberta, in Canada.
Do they have Greyhound buses everywhere, or is that like...
I think they have them in America, too.
Yeah, it's just like buses that kind of go like...
Oh, yeah, what is a Greyhound bus? It's essentially like a huge bus, and it's not a public transit, like inner city bus. It's one that you would take from like a longer trip.
Yeah, like town to town, city to city,
Yes,
even
yes.
like across provinces, you could.
And after you hear this, you will never take one again. I will never take one again.
Yeah, we used to take them a lot, actually. Like, we used to take them to come visit you at McGill.
Yeah, I've taken one, and I don't want to
taken
anymore.
a lot, and it's unpleasant. It's very unpleasant, especially...
Not as unpleasant as this. Yeah. So basically what happened is there was a gentleman by the name of Tim McLean, 22-year-old man. He got on this Greyhound bus. He was in a window seat, basically like fell asleep. And at a scheduled rest stop, a guy who was originally sitting somewhere else on the bus came and sat next to him instead. And then while Tim is asleep, this guy pulls out a massive knife from where I don't know, I assume within his clothes, and just starts hacking Tim to death. He started to just stab him in the chest.
So he stabbed at him first before he...
just went at him. Didn't say anything. And apparently from witnesses, obviously witnesses heard Tim scream because, he's being stabbed. And people described the attacker, whose name is Vince Lee, by the way, described him as being like a robot. He was just calmly stabbing him. So obviously everyone on the bus is freaking out because what the hell? I think Tim actually did die pretty soon into the attack because he had this massive knife that he was attacking him with. Yeah. And so the driver, pulls over, starts to get everyone off the bus, like evacuate all the innocent bystanders. And then I believe the driver and one other person tried to rescue Tim, but they were unable to because Vince, the attacker, was
and it just
took
everyone by such surprise. I'm sure he was going on for a while before people even realized what was happening.
I think people said basically they started to hear a scream and then, noticed it was happening.
It must have taken time to alert the driver. And of course, like, it's on these type of buses where, like, it's not crazy that you see some sort of, like, incident or, like, someone with mental health issues start screaming or whatever. Like, I'm sure at first people were probably like,
why is he screaming?
Oh, like, that guy's probably, like, nuts or something. And then it's like, wait a minute, there's blood flying everywhere.
So terrifying. So the driver, pulled them over. There was some maneuver where he could lock the doors from the inside to trap the attacker inside. Everyone's off the bus. They're all, scarred for life now, freaking out. And the attacker was trying to get off the bus. He couldn't. It was locked in. And he started beheading poor Tim and holding his head up for everyone to see. So this attack goes on. Like, a lot of these people actually, obviously, Tim, of course, lost his life. Super tragic. A lot of these people suffered serious PTSD from this incident, as I think most of us would. actually, the RCMP ended up showing up at the scene of the crime, I think an hour or so later. They're the Canadian Mounted Police.
Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
They're the horse cops, so they showed up.
They weren't on horses. Like, they're not on horses these days.
I don't know if they were on horses at the time, but really sad. Like, I know one of the officers actually ended up committing suicide later because of the trauma of what he witnessed. Like, this is actually the stuff of nightmares.
No, it's like, I can't imagine. You're literally just sitting on a bus, like, and you're like, fuck, I have to take a Greyhound bus. Like, this sucks, whatever. Across, like, again, they must have been far out because it took the RCMP an hour to get there.
Yeah. I think they were in the middle of nowhere at the time.
Happens, and, like, he's showing the head. Like,
yeah, showing the head.
Horrific.
And it's like, Tim was fully just an innocent, I mean, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
Who really deserves to be murdered, I guess.
No one.
You could argue that, but.
Except pedophiles.
Yeah. You know, retribution. But he was truly just minding his own business, and there's no.
He was sleeping.
He was sleeping.
He was woken up.
Yeah, so that's really scary. I mean, everything about it's really scary. After the RCMP showed up, they had a standoff with Vince where they were like, "All right, exit." You know, they want him to exit the bus. He's threatening them. They don't want to like make contact with him because they're scared of him. And it wasn't until it was like hours and hours later. He attempted to escape the bus, and they managed to tase him and subdue him. And when they entered the bus, they found that parts, like Tim's, I believe his heart and his eyes were never recovered because Vince had ate them. Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. I'm like not 100% sure those were the exact body parts, but those body parts were not recovered because they had been eaten. So that happened.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. It's truly like one of the scariest things I've heard of. So gory, so bloody. And Vince, like, he was a pretty normal guy. He was previously diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he had been medicated for it, but I believe he was off his medication at this time. He was from China.
Controversy.
Yeah, he was from China originally, and he had moved to Canada. And people who knew him said that he had some frustration with not being able to, like, communicate clearly with the language barrier, but he didn't have a history of extreme violence, as people knew. But I believe, and what is like the agreed upon by the court situation, was that he had a schizophrenic break, and he heard a voice in his head telling him to kill a demon or to kill an alien or whatever, and that he thought it was.
I watched a mini documentary or something on it a long time ago, and that's what I remember. I think there was a situation where the bus had been stopped.
Okay.
And Tim was outside on a bench, and he sat next to him.
Yeah, they smoked a cigarette together or something.
And I think that might be why he, like, chose him.
Right.
Out of everybody on the bus.
He heard a voice in his head telling him this is...
there was a lot to do with, like, voices that he was hearing, and he thought that he was, like... Either that he was, like, supposed to kill God, or, like, and Tim was God, or something religious.
Yep.
And it was, like, some sort of, like, specifically Chinese religion. Like, it was very specific to him and his religion or whatever. But, yeah, definitely... a schizophrenic break is the agreed upon.
Yeah. And so he actually ended up being found not criminally responsible by reason of insanity.
Which is the huge controversy.
This is, wait till you hear the, 2008, this happens. Vince was sentenced to a mental hospital. And in 2015, 7 years later, he was discharged, a free man with no conditions. And no conditions. So that's
not even like you need to be on medication.
Like, I think he's supposed to be on medication, but no conditions of somebody checking up to make sure that he is on medication. And he was actually able to change his name as well. I forgot what the name he changed it to, but he was able to. So we
know what the name is.
I think check. I think it's on there. I feel like I've read it before, but it's something Baker. He changed it to something Baker, if I recall.
What is his name?
Vince Lee. So, so he was discharged from the mental health facility, and Will Baker, much to the disagreement of Tim's family, the victim's family. Like,
I'm sure they must be horrified.
They are, yeah. I'm sure to this day they are. And so as far as we know, he's integrated back into society. Here's the thing, though. As far as we know, he is not reoffended, and he's integrated back into society. And it does seem like, aside from the schizophrenic break, he is... not necessarily a threat to people, but it's just so scary how threatening he can be.
No, I'm sorry. I disagree with that.
I don't know how this works, but
they should have let him out. Or if they were to let him out, he should be under extreme not surveillance, but like he should be under observation. He should be having to check in somewhere regularly. Are you kidding me?
The thing is, it's like
a risk analysis that you have to take when you let somebody like this free. And like, okay, sure, he only did this because, and like maybe it was because of his schizophrenia. Maybe it was because he didn't take his meds.
I think so.
How are we being positive that he's not going to get off his meds again?
That's the thing. It's like, if somebody's capable of this one time, how can we be absolutely sure that it's not going to happen again? Like, how can we be sure?
You can even be like reasonably sure that it's not going to happen again, but that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Look what happened to this poor guy.
Yeah.
If that happens to one other person, how is that fair?
Right.
How is that worth it?
And there's even the argument to be made that, like, I guess he was found legally in the eyes of the law not criminally responsible, but I think a lot of people would argue that he should have gotten life in prison for that offense.
Well, how can you be not criminally responsible if it was your responsibility to take your medication?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess maybe they can't force you to take medication. But like, maybe after that, like, he should have some sort of condition to his release where if he's found to reoffend and has not taken his medication, that is criminal responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think there's any conditions.
That's insane.
Let me double check, but no, I don't think so.
I don't know anyone who's like, yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's any information on what kind of treatment he received in the mental hospital. Like, I'd be really interested to know who in the mental hospital was like, he's good to go. So, yeah, so it does seem like he perceived him to be some type of, like, it wasn't like he's like, I'm going to attack this guy. He did perceive him to be some type of
I think
hallucination.
I think it's clear that it was a mental health break, whatever we want to call it, schizophrenic break, whatever. And maybe that means he's not criminally responsible, kind of. But what is the risk for the public?
Yeah.
Like,
this is a risk.
Can he just get on another Greyhound bus? Like, can he just take the subway? Like,
yeah, I wouldn't want that.
No. And if I were Tim's family, I would be...
I think his family's pissed.
Every turn.
Yeah, I think his family's not happy. I mean, obviously.
That's just, it's not right. And there's so many people who get locked up for, like, so much less.
I know. Life in prison or years in prison. So the psychiatrist that I guess was representing Vince said that he had attacked him because he was hearing voices he believed were from God telling him to destroy the demon sitting beside him or that he would be killed himself.
Yes,
which,
it was like something was threatening him. It was
yeah.
Like, if you don't do this, then...
And
but it's like, why eat him then?
I know, that's true.
Why did you eat him?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems to be a thing with schizophrenia, though.
Yeah, I mean...
I've never had it, so...
No, obviously not. But it's like, it goes pretty far in the hallucinations, or it can. And so then it's like the limit, the possibilities are endless as to like what you can conceive of in your own mind.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it can get extremely dark and fucked up.
It's just crazy how many people this affected because, like I said, one of the RCMP officers ended up committing suicide from the trauma of experiencing this.
Yeah, and a lot of people couldn't fit on one of those buses, so it's like there's a big crowd out there.
Yeah, like all those people, or many of them, I think, had suffered long-term psychological effects. Obviously, Tim... Yeah, luckily, not to say that this was lucky in any way, but he was killed pretty quickly into the attack, so at least he wasn't being tortured for hours. I don't know if that's better or worse. Like, his body was mutilated, but he wasn't alive.
Better than, like, being alive while your head is being chopped off, but it's still,
and he cut off his ears and nose, and they were in his pockets, and then he ate the eyes and the heart.
That's fucked up.
Yeah,
it's like he was saving them as a snack for later.
I know.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Like, this is straight out of a horror movie or a nightmare.
Especially because it's so random.
It's so random. And it wasn't like, it makes Vince seem scarier that he wasn't this, like, known creep. Do you know what I mean?
Because it's like, it could have happened to anyone.
And it makes it seem like he was possessed and he did this. And that's very horror movie-ish, too.
For sure. Because, if you go the route that, like, it was reality.
And then in the epilogue, it's like, he's free now. What's he gonna do? Like, in movies, it's like the next one. Yeah. Which hopefully he never. I mean, I don't know.
That would be great, but it's still like.
That would be ideal, since he's free.
The people who make that decision to let him go should be held responsible. If
so, yeah. And as far as I know, has never given any interviews, which
Yeah.
fair enough, but
Yeah, but I would.
I would
well, I
love
wouldn't
to
do
hear
that, but
like
his perspective.
yeah. Even for him to be like, that wasn't me. I was really not myself. I was having a break. This is what I believed at the time, but now I'm rehabbed and I don't believe that anymore. I would just love to hear it from him.
I wonder if he's on a medication that like is working for him. That like,
probably
like, and because I think a lot of people go off their meds. Correct me if I'm wrong. People who are on meds, I don't know, who have like bad side effects because of their medication. So
that is
like,
I think.
It would make me feel a lot better if he was getting medication that was not cost prohibitive and didn't give him any side effects that would incentivize him to go off the medication.
I assume he is. Like, I did read that while he was in the mental hospital, he was getting like what's the word? Like incremental freedom. So first they would give him like a day out, and then they said, okay, you're responding really well to your treatment. You can have a little more freedom. So it wasn't like they just sent him in and then sent him out. There was a process that they followed where they felt like he was earning his way back into society. But yeah, I think it's very controversial. I think a lot of people would argue that he shouldn't have ever been released. I don't know.
Yeah, I would be one of those
people. And he obviously wanted to be released. Like, I'm thinking about another case of somebody who was in jail, or in a psychiatric hospital, not guilty by reason of insanity, who wanted...
That different than not criminally responsible?
Not criminally responsible. That's what I mean. Not criminally responsible. I know somebody else who had that, or I don't know them personally, but I just know about them. And they choose to stay within the mental hospital because they're like, I don't think I could hack it out there. Well, I think I should stay in here.
The people making that decision, like, if he's not even saying I want to get out, why are you letting him out?
No, he probably was saying that. I'm talking about somebody else.
No, that person.
Yeah, this person. No, she's still in there.
Who is it?
The one that drowned her kids, Andrea Yates. She's like, yeah, guys, keep me in here.
Babies scare me so much.
Yeah, that's scary.
Because I'm scared. I'm like, it makes you think like, oh, they scare me. I don't like it. I do not like listening to podcasts.
Well, you have babies.
For some reason, my like YouTube feed, which is obviously all true crime, and recently, I bought a new car, and then I got really into car reviews, and now my feed is all car reviews. And there's like this one lady who reviews cars, and I really like her for some reason, and so I watch all of her car review videos, and it's like such a waste of my time. But anyway. So many of the true crime videos that are suggested to me are all because I've watched all of them. The only ones left are like the babies being killed.
Yeah,
or, like, the babies.
I think you
being
can
sexually...
select. I don't want to see this.
Yeah, maybe babies. I should do that because they recommend. And I start like listening to them because it doesn't explicitly say that, and then it's like she had 3 babies and then he molested them, and I'm like, I don't fucking want to hear this.
Yeah, I get that.
I can only hear about children being murdered. If it's like a really, really big case like Chris Watts, like I'm not going to not hear about that. Or if it's like really old, like Jeffrey McDonald, for some reason it's just more removed.
Yes.
Which is not good. Like when I really think about it, it really gets me. But like new stuff where like they like show a picture of this like adorable little girl.
Yeah.
Like, she's missing and her father is a known child rapist. It's like, don't even.
Yeah, that makes sense. You have kids, so.
Yeah. So that's that story. Yeah, there's not a whole lot, and I guess we don't know much about like his childhood and his time in China or anything. So that's why, like a lot of our stuff tends to be, or we like to, have a lot to do with like the childhood and the backstory and everything. So that's why there's not. So we've gone back and forth deciding about whether or not to do this as a long form episode.
I mean, what we said is almost all the details. There's like a few little details of like him at his past jobs, but it's nothing super substantial. Another detail, like right before, I think it was before he got on the bus, Vince sold his laptop to a random kid for like $60. And then the police, like that kid later turned that laptop into the police for evidence. And I don't think anything came of it. Yeah. But that was just a sign of the like, oh, he's losing it if he's just getting rid of his possessions. He had a wife, you know. Oh. And I think he had just like left her.
I didn't know he had a wife.
Let's make sure it's still filming. Let me just double check if it says anything about his wife. He had left her, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure she's thankful for that.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah, so he... Oh, wait. I don't know. He had left his wife a few years ago, but then apparently she joined him later. I'm not really sure. Oh. But he had a wife at some point.
Wife in China, and then joined him later in
Canada?
No,
in Canada.
Oh, okay. All right, well.
So I'm interested to see if his wife is still with him. I don't know.
Well, if we find out, we'll update you.
But yeah, so that happened, and it's terrifying, and I never want to go on a Greyhound bus ever. And if I do, I certainly will not be closing my eyes for a second.
You can't sleep.
Hell no.
Yeah, I've been on many a Greyhound or mega buses.
I've slept on those before. Yeah, that's like to think that like this could happen to anybody, and that's what makes it so scary.
I don't like to think about that.
No.
But there you go. There's your little Lil Knocker for this week. Yeah. Hope you enjoyed these little mini knockers. We'll be doing this for the month of October, and we just think they're super little cute and want to be festive.
Yeah, super cute. Super
cute.
Festive. Spooky season.
So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, etc. Email us hello@whosknockingpodcast.com. You can find all that stuff in the thing at the bottom or whatever you're listening to this on. I don't know. And have a wonderful month of October, the most festive, wonderful month of the year.
Truly.
And stay safe out there, because you never know
who's knocking.
This podcast is produced in collaboration with Lost Line Media. Artwork by August Digital. Music by Matthew Cook.